Welcome to the Voices That Propel Us, stories of justice, action, and community, a space where justice meets action and community voices rise. Each episode, we bring you stories from the front lines, changemakers, disruptors, and everyday heroes who are building a more just, equitable, and liberated world. This is more than a podcast. It's a call to listen, learn, and move together. You were just listening to music from the incredibly talented Stephen Kong. You can find him on Spotify and Bandcamp. Today we have with us Sara Alessandrini. Sara is an Italian filmmaker and social commentator based in Los Angeles and the creator of the docuseries This Is What New Yorkers Say. The series examines the resignation of former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, exploring media coverage and conversations with everyday New Yorkers while raising broader questions about politics, society, and public discourse. Well, good morning, Sara. I'm really excited and really grateful that you're here this morning. I feel that you and I are very similar in terms of like storytelling and how we really value voices of real people. And I'm excited for this conversation. But how are you doing this morning?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm sure we're going to have a great conversation talking about a lot of things. Yes.
Right. No, and I appreciate that too. Like I was saying, I feel like we share that values because that's why I have this podcast. I want to just tell real stories coming from real people. And I feel like the media tries to sway people and tell a certain narrative. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this conversation is going to go. So just to start off, can you please talk about what first drew you, so as an Italian filmmaker, to the stories and social realities of New York City?
Oh, why I did it? I mean, that was I never lived in New York, so I'm not part of that community. I want to move to New York, obviously. That's where I feel my future is. My heart has always been in New York, so obviously, it's something that I really felt connected to. But yeah, I was living in Los Angeles at the time. I'm from Italy, but I've been in Los Angeles for 10 years.
Okay.
And I was working. And it was during COVID. I was working as a facility manager of an historic theater. But I was always very kind of frustrated in general because I felt like I wanted to do more with my life, connected to community, society, politics in general. It's something that I always felt it was something important for me more than the movie industry. And so I was at that moment where I was I'm tired of just dealing with the movies, movie-related stuff that is all about entertainment. I just felt I needed something more important. And I love working at that place because, especially in Los Angeles, people are so isolated. It's so hard to actually create a community here. And so that was a great place because it was a place where people could just build a new community. So I loved that of the place where I was working because I felt it was I was meeting so many people there. Everybody was going there 2-3 times a week, even as a movie theater. So I love that of community, and especially in Los Angeles, it's something that we need more here. And coming from Italy, obviously the concept of community is very different than in the United States. So I felt like something that always I cared about that. But I was frustrated because I felt but we're still caring about movies, the entertainment and stuff like that. And then it was during COVID. Obviously, I was following the press conferences from the governors, but I was focused on California because as a facility manager, I was trying to understand when we would be able to reopen the theater. So I was learning everything about that. And then my algorithm just started showing me videos of Cuomo. And I was oh, that's interesting. I had no idea who he was, but I just love hearing what he was talking about, the government. And coming from Italy, I'm very disillusioned about politics, obviously, because especially it's a very different. People complain about this country, but honestly, once you come from other countries, the reality is way more different in government. And even if you don't consider because of the people, the individual politician, that you might say everybody's corrupt, whatever. But even how the law is built, here you have common law. In Italy is very different. So it's just the way it is created, the law, it's very difficult to actually make changes. And you don't really change the full system. You keep patching things here and there. So then it just like every year becomes just worse and worse. So it's not an open system like here where everybody can actually become involved easily. Like you have to, there are specific channels if you want to get involved in politics, in community, in justice, and all of that. It's a very different system. So, but anyway, yeah, I was just like watching clips and hearing him talking about government, and I just loved what he was talking about, and it was just different to me, like how passionate he was about that, how much he was in love with New York. Like you could see that passion and how much he really cared about his communities. And so I saw that version of him, and then when they started the accusation of sexual harassment started coming out, then I was like questioning things, and then I saw how the media, that was like the worst part of it, like how the media reacted to it, and I saw like how the always, even before the sexual harassment allegation, the media in New York was always writing things, writing article and just saying things just to push their opinion of Cuomo to people.
Yeah.
And that was like something I just like I couldn't stand, because like that was not the person that I saw. That's not the perception I was having of him. But the media, and I'm a filmmaker, so I know how like you can have the same footage, but depending how you edit it,
Right.
the message is going to be very different. So when I read an article from the media, I'm always questioning, okay, why are you telling me this detail? This detail, it's not important, but this other detail is important. Why you're not developing this thing? So why are you focusing on that? And what are you trying to tell me? And so I saw a lot of that when they were writing about him. Like every article was kind of like to push that narrative that Cuomo was a horrible human being.
Yeah.
Like every article, like even if you read them now, like even the other week, there was an article from the New York Post saying no one wants you anymore in life. Like, first of all, like they were saying voters rejected you. Like in this New York mayoral election that he was running for mayor, 900,000 people voted for him. So you cannot say that voters rejected you when he got like 41% of the votes. So that's not rejection. But every article they write is to show how horrible he is as a human being. And so that's unfair for any human being in general, but also it was clashing with what I saw. And so then I just kept looking into the situation. And then I was reading the report when it came out. It didn't make any sense because there were so many things that like were not being developed. Because when you read something, you're like, okay, there are follow-up questions that you should ask. And you can see that the people were not asking the proper following up questions, putting things into context. So that's what I kind of like drew me to that thing. And then he resigned, obviously, because they were threatening him with impeachment. And I was reading how the impeachment is something arbitrarily decided by the politicians over there compared to like California, where you have a recall system. So like what they did with Gavin Newsom, people had issues with Gavin Newsom during COVID, obviously, for different reasons, but still like similar reason. And but the people got to vote and to keep him in office. But that system is not in New York. And also the way you decide impeachment in New York, it's like there is no high bar. So, and it's very unclear. So they could just, that's what they were saying. Doesn't matter if you're guilty or not for crimes or whatever, but you're not, people have lost the confidence in you, so you have to resign. Which again, politician deciding what the people have to say about it. And there was an article that was saying 70% of New Yorkers wanted him to resign, and I just couldn't believe that. And so that's where I was like, I have to do something. I don't know what I have to, well, what can I do? I don't know what I have to do, but someone had to do something, and he resigned at that point. So, and I was like, well, I have equipment. I know how to make movies by myself. Maybe I should do something about it. And of course, everything started like very small at the beginning. Like, it's not that I was like, I'm going to make a 5-episode series or something. Started very small. Like, first I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to just do some videos to share on social media, something like that, like 10 minutes clips. And I found some people online that could help me find people to interview because I didn't live in New York. So I found some people on Facebook. So I was like, I'm going to travel around the state, interview people, and just meet people to interview and stuff like that. But then the more I was writing down, okay, what is this that I'm trying to achieve, the more I was like, oh, but we should have a conversation about this. We should have a conversation about that. So it started from Cuomo, but then it was really about like all the topics that we're dealing with in society. So it's like the Democratic Party, how they're eating their own people, they're not sticking up for each other, how the media is not doing its job. What is women empowerment? Because obviously I'm a woman too, so obviously I care for women to have like rights, to have like their voice and everything. But what is it? Is the Me Too movement actually empowering women, or it's actually, or it is yes or no, depending on the time? Is it like causing more division between men and women? Like there is all this kind of conversation that I think we need to have, and social media too. How people are not really getting to know each other, and cancel culture. We're like, okay, even if you make a mistake, you should be able to still be able to show that you can make a change. So there were just so many conversations that I felt we needed to have. And beyond that, I just felt like I wanted to hear directly from New Yorkers, because everybody was talking about New Yorkers, but no one was really actually. And yeah, like the media, maybe, yeah, they have those sound bites where they interview random people on the street and people give you their 2 cents. But even that, what someone is going to just tell you in those 2 seconds that you approach them on the street, they might just tell you whatever they think it's convenient for them to tell you.
Yeah.
You just don't know what is true, what is not true. And you see in my documentary, like there is also one person that originally was like, yeah, I don't care about him, I don't care about what happened. And then eventually, the more that we went with the interview, actually then he was like, no, I'll take back what I said. Actually, that was horrible, that should not have happened. So sometimes people just give you like their first thing when you just ask them a quick question. But then actually, if you sit down with them, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to really have real conversation with people. And so those interviews, some of them are like 1 hour and a half. So we really got to talk about so many topics. And they said a lot about their own lives too, like their background. Obviously, I didn't put it in the documentary because it was not the point.
Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful too. So, was there anything that people said that surprised you or like challenged what you were like thinking or believing about this whole issue?
I mean, I went there like pretty open to anything.
Okay.
Definitely like the women conversation, how like a lot of people like ended up sharing like their very personal stories, because like even there, like there someone I was talking about how she, like her personal experiences with the harassment, assault, and everything. So definitely I didn't think that people would become emotional and share their stories with me, that I was a total stranger for them. So that definitely like surprised me. And I learned so much also like from that conversation about women empowerment. Obviously, people with like Marsha Pappas, she was the former president of NOW, the National Organization of Women, the New York chapter. So she worked in women empowerment for like so many years, and she say, I'm a feminist, but I'm an empowerment feminist. So like she says in the documentary, yeah, we need to have laws, but also we need to have women empowered so that they don't rely on the law for everything. They can speak up for themselves. And so that's also where I am. Like, I feel like we need to get women to be stronger and to feel comfortable when to say no. And a lot of situations you can easily say no. But I feel a lot of people are afraid of what could happen. And yes, there are situations where obviously it's dangerous for you to say no or everything. But I think now we're like over exaggerating those situations. Like very often, like I grew up with guys all my life. Like I was studying electronic originally. Yeah, electronics and telecommunications when I was in high school. I was the only girl in class in high school. So I spent so much time with guys, and I know they can talk a big game or whatever, but at the end, not all of them eventually are like aggressive or something like that. So it's really about empowering women to say no and to be strong and everything. So I think that's the most important thing.
No, that's wonderful. And how did you go about choosing what voices you wanted to reach out to just ensure that you had a diverse set of opinions being reflected?
I mean, I was open to anyone who wanted to speak out.
Okay.
So that to me, definitely, I wanted a couple, like few experts in a way. So like there are
Okay.
two people that are expert,
Uh-huh.
but in general, like I was just like anyone who's willing to talk, doesn't matter who it
Oh,
is.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, like obviously, and I travel around like different areas of New York. So I
Yeah.
was like Union Square, you see there. I went to Bronx, I went to Queens, went to Long Island, I went to Albany,
Oh,
went to
wow.
Rochester. I also went to Buffalo, but then we didn't find anyone over there. And
Okay.
so, yeah, like the only requirement I had, it was that it was supposed to be New Yorkers. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously not someone that was a tourist, obviously not someone who lived outside. And
Mm-hmm.
New Yorkers can be a lot of different things. Obviously, it's not only people that
Right.
were born and raised. Like some people obviously born and raised, but another person said that she's from Pennsylvania, but she obviously lives in New York she's been there for a while. So
Yeah.
that was my only requirement. I wanted to hear directly from locals and not
Oh,
from other
that's
people.
cool. No, I think that's beautiful too, how you were talking about like how people just started opening up to you. Because that's actually something that I've been surprised about too, like how vulnerable people have been getting in the interviews. And, just what unravels is really this beautiful story. But what did you do to like build trust to get people comfortable enough talking with you and knowing that this is going to be something public that they'll be releasing?
I have no idea.
Really? Oh, wow, that's
I must have done
amazing.
something good, I guess.
No, that's
So
so beautiful.
yeah, it's like, I mean,
Yeah.
because I didn't know anything about them. And I'm a very curious person. I just love learning about people's life. I'm Italian. So I'm like,
Yeah.
naturally, I'm
No, that's
curious
cool.
about hearing what's in people's life, people's past, the future, whatever.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't know anything about them. So it's not that I could really prepare in advance
Mm-hmm.
too many questions. Yeah, like, okay, once I learned, okay, maybe this person that she's a friend of someone want to talk. But again, some people were total strangers that I found on the street. Other people were like, oh, I know this person. So, okay, maybe I know what job she did,
Oh,
something
okay.
about her background. But in general, I didn't really know much about
Yeah.
anyone. So maybe like, okay, when I learned, okay, well, I'm on the train about to go to this
Yeah.
person, maybe I prepared some basic question. Like obviously I had the basic question about Cuomo, obviously to start
Mm-hmm.
from there, what they think about like the Me Too movement, obviously, cancel culture. So there are like those basic questions. But then
Yeah.
I was like very much improvising. So I would just start the conversation just asking them about themselves, like their lives. So maybe the first 20 minutes of the interview that maybe I didn't even use them because obviously it was
Mm.
not about their personal life. But at least I think that helped them getting comfortable talking
Oh,
about
that's
things.
beautiful.
Because like,
That's really beautiful.
I mean, if someone asks you like, okay, what do you think about these big topics? Then it's a
Yeah.
little more maybe like,
Yeah.
okay, you have to think about it. But if someone starts asking you about your life, you don't have to
Yeah.
think about the answer because you know the answer, you know about your life.
Yeah. You're
So
setting the tone basically.
yeah,
So,
so
no,
I think
that's really
like
cool.
that helps because they're not obviously experts. So we're not
Mm-hmm.
talking about people that are like always in front of a camera. Like they're very, a lot of them like they're like people that never done anything like that in
Yeah.
front of cameras or anything. So obviously some were shy, some, but even like it's crazy because there's one interviewer, one of the people at the beginning, like that person was very shy and
Okay.
like kind of like stopped and this. But if you watch in the documentary, it doesn't look like at all.
No,
Seems like
no,
the
I
most
wouldn't have been able to
confident
tell
person
at
ever.
all. That's a gift that you have though, too, to be able to pull out those stories in people. And something that I've also realized, I think, in doing this podcast, I think there's just like this desire that people want to tell their stories. Because I've been actually surprised, like how this influx of messages I've been getting, like people just wanting to tell their stories. Because I feel like so many systems are telling us that our voices don't matter, our stories don't matter, and I feel like when people have the opportunity to speak out, they're like, no, I want to tell my story. And, I think it's beautiful that you're doing that as well. But yeah, I was just wondering, like, because yeah, I think that's amazing that like how like broad you've tried to reach out because it seemed like even though you reached out in different places, people were having like similar opinions throughout your docu-series. So I'm just wondering like what you think like just how this relates to larger systemic issues of, the people feel one way, but the media and, politicians or other people are giving this other kind of story. Like, where do you feel that gap is? Or, what kind of issues do you think there is with that?
I mean, I think a big issue in this country for sure is like peer
Hmm.
pressure. A lot of
Okay.
people think they have to think in a specific way because that's what they hear their friends. That's because what the media says. So people are afraid to actually say what's in their mind. And sometimes what you have in your mind might not be the best thing ever, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel things, and then you can learn to be, even if it's something that you think it's something bad. I don't know what it is, but you can still learn from that. And if you say who you are, what you think, then maybe you're going to encounter someone who's going to change your mind, and then you're going to change your mind. You need
Yeah.
that mixing with people that have different opinions from you, and even like, maybe the craziest person can still make you think about something. So I think that that's one of the problem in this country I see, is that either people are not honest with what they think because they're afraid of being judged, and that what they think is not appropriate. And we all, I mean, it's in general something that human beings, obviously we all make that, we have that thinking that our thoughts are so different than everybody else. But then actually if we get to know other people, then we'll learn that we're not as different as we think we are. So we're more similar, and that causes a lot of division too. Because if I think that I believe something that it's so horrible, like maybe it's not even, maybe because like we all have like childhood kind of like emotional trauma that makes us like, gives us like feeling bad about ourselves, about our shadow, as like Jung would say. But at the end of the day, maybe if you learn to integrate all those things, maybe you're not that horrible human beings that you believe, but because now you're so afraid to say what you think, you don't even get an outside like input from someone else, and so then you end up being even more isolated and then thinking crazy thing because of that isolation. So it's a very complex issue, obviously, and that's also what I wanted to do with this documentary. It's to let people know it's okay to question what happened there, to question what the politicians, the accusations, and everything. And that's what it was, because a lot of people felt like, oh, I need to hate Cuomo because of what happened. But it's like, okay, but do you know about the story? Do you know about what happened? Do you know what the accusations are? And like, why do you just believe anything? But a lot of people feel pressure to believe certain things. Like a friend of mine, and she watched the documentary, and she's like in her 50s, 60s, or something like that. And she's like a very feminist type of person, obviously, like she cares about women's rights and everything. She watched my documentary and she was like, I loved Cuomo during the pandemic. But then after, when the accusations were made, then I was like, oh, that's another pig, another man. And so, because she obviously felt that she needed to defend women and to hate him for that. And I mean, you can believe the accusations, but still put them in perspective about what it is. Because if you read the accusations, like, it's a lot of stuff that also could have been easily resolved if there was a conversation about it. Okay, you feel uncomfortable. Like, he was not accused of rape or anything like that strong, or a real sexual assault. It was a lot of cultural things too, because like kissing people on the cheek, because obviously that's a very Italian thing. So you can be uncomfortable obviously about that, but again, you can say that if you're uncomfortable, like you're not unsafe. So there are a lot of like those nuances that could have been solved in so many ways if there was a real conversation, if there was a system. But again, in politics, then there are a lot of interests around, so everybody wanted him out of office. So, but this person told me after watching the documentary, she was like, oh, these women helped me realize that I can question things. Like, I don't have to just believe whatever.
Beautiful.
And that's the problem that I have. It's not that like, it's not about the not believing women. It's about who let's say, who wins something by it. Because then then there is always someone that is benefiting from that. So if it's so simple for a politician to be kicked out of office, not being given due process or nothing, just because women made the accusations, then there is someone who eventually is going to benefit from that and make that a system. We're like, okay, then I can just get some women, not in this situation, but there will be other situations where like, oh, I can find some women to make accusations. And then it's men benefiting that. And I've seen that in the workplace too, like situation where like, okay, they wanted to get rid of a guy. And so they just start using examples like he made uncomfortable this person, even if they were not in the room.
Yeah.
So, and I was in the room at time where like, that's not what happened. And I was trying to defend the person from these people that were not even in the room, but they didn't even listen to me. So it's like, okay, it's that selective. I'll believe certain women just because it's convenient for me, and I'm not going to believe other women that maybe say something different. And it's very dangerous, like what happened even there, like some of the accusation. Okay, so there was one of the first accusation. She was saying that during, like, she was in the room with Cuomo, like on the airplane actually, with Cuomo and a group of other people, and she said that he proposed to play strip poker. Again, it's a stupid joke. You can be uncomfortable. If you were in a group, you're not unsafe because obviously you're in a group with people and a lot of things where the setting is not unsafe. So even if you said that, it's probably bad. But again, you should not be impeached for saying something like that. If you take just that, there should be a system. There should be consequences. But again, we have to put into perspective what the consequences should be depending on the offense, obviously. So, but the problem is not that she said that. The problem is that everybody else that was in the room, they said that this never happened. So she said this happened, and all the other witnesses were saying no. Then in the Attorney General report, she said that one of these people that originally said that didn't happen, he changed his mind and said, okay, actually it happened. But in the report, it said that he changed his mind because the woman threatened him.
Yeah.
So if you change your mind because the person is threatening you, like the woman, how can you use that as a proof? That's like witness tampering. So there are situations like this where like you put like that, obviously in any situation, you will not use that case as proof that someone is guilty because obviously the witness has been tampered by one of the people that benefited from that, from him changing his mind. And so that's not how the law works, but in the media it doesn't matter because that's where the problem was for me. They were like, okay, there were situations like that in the report where obviously, okay, how it was written, this person said this, there was this witness, and then you read in the footnote, oh, but the witness said that this never happened. Then why you write in the report that this happened and there was a witness about it, and in the footnote you say, oh, the witness actually said it didn't happen. So it's like how the narrative, how they change things. So
Yeah, no, I think that's what when I was looking at your docuseries, I felt a little like conflicted about that though, because I do understand the angle that you're making and seems like you had no bias in getting the guests and stuff, but I think the challenge with that too is like in those specific cases, maybe that might have been the case, but I think on a larger scale, sometimes women are like dismissed or just being like, oh, stop complaining, you didn't do anything. Or, with the Me Too movement, I think people making those same arguments about women, about things that actually did happen. So they, I think just like dismissing that Me Too movement and, putting women in danger. So I think that's where I felt conflicted though, that like, yeah, it might not be like happen in those specific cases, but on a wider scale, like how can we listen to like women and validate their concerns when they do bring them up though?
but that's the point. It's like it's a case by case. You
Yeah.
cannot generalize it, be like, oh, because someone in another country might not get due process, then we, like for a woman, that we need to attack this man here. You have to look at the specific case as it is. So see, okay, this accusation, okay, if this accusation then doesn't make any sense because the facts like counteract that, then you cannot take that seriously. But that doesn't mean that a person in other states should not get their own due process. You have to just be a case by case. You cannot create a system where, like, okay, as soon as a woman accuses someone, then you cannot challenge that what they're saying. You have to challenge everything, and there could be so many reasons. Like, I mean, human relationships are complicated. Sometimes you think that someone did something because they wanted to do something for you or whatever, but maybe if you actually learn more about the situation, you know that doesn't mean that. And it's not just about men and women, it's all kind of like human relationships. Like even in our friendship, you're like, oh, why this person didn't texted me for something, and then maybe there is a story behind that. So you cannot just assume things when you deal with human beings. And that's where, to me, was the issue. It's like in that documentary, obviously, you obviously see that a lot of those women had their own experience with sexual harassment. They all had like very personal, very strong things, but still doesn't mean that they would believe like this situation it's different. So I think that's where like we need to learn, like not to put everything into binary things. And we talk about binary all the time, but then it's like, okay, but then we have that mentality where like, okay, politician, bad guy, minority, good person. Yeah, like obviously if you look like in the big numbers, in the large numbers, yes, probably there are more bad people in the politician than in this other population. But doesn't mean that every person is bad because of that. And that's what I was trying to show with the documentary, just to see how people saw him as a human being, and how much he was doing for the community, how much he cared for the community. He was like, you see that a lot of people had a very direct experiences with him, not just because they saw him on television, but like how he showed up. Like he showed up when actually people had real issues, like when there was a flood, when there was like earthquakes, like real situation, like crisis. Like he was the first one to take action and do things, and people in the community saw that. They saw how much he cared. So it's that's where I think we need to look at each case and not just have assumption. That's all I want to say. Like I'm not saying that these women are wrong. I'm not saying that anyone is wrong per se. It's really about let's actually look at each situation.
I hear you. I hear that definitely. But I think the thing is too, there's reasons why like movements like Me Too had to come up, because like there are women who were like had to be silent for years. And I think, them speaking up and having that courage, I think it gave other people, like other women, like that encouragement, empowerment to like speak up with their own stories. So I don't know, it's a little bit tricky because I think we can't dismiss like that movement too. And
it's a controversial topic, obviously.
Yeah, no. I feel like it's just like we need to take, but I feel like when it comes to like something like that, it's a larger systemic issue of how like women are being oppressed in this country and told not to speak out. So I feel like I'm actually glad that women are having more empowerment to speaking out, though. But I think what you bring up in your documentary is it is like touchy and it's very complex.
But in the documentary, it talks about how the Me Too movement it's important. It's important that it is there. Like it's not about we should not have a movement. That's not the point of the documentary.
No, totally. No,
like
I didn't see
people
that
talk about there is obviously it's important. People have been empowered. People have been feeling like they can speak out and everything. The problem that I have is when, the movement is born, now it's mainstream, then someone else co-opt the movement for their own personal purposes. It's like eventually everything gets used for political reasons. And so that's where what I don't want to see. Whatever movement is not just that. It could be the BLM movements. There are always politicians that are using that for their own, getting some votes, even if then maybe they're not planning to actually make that improvement in life. And that's, to me, that's what I struggle with. It's like, politicians, everybody's like on the good side. Okay, now there is a new movement, whatever movement it is. The politician jump on that bandwagon. I support this group, this movement. I support this. And then because they support the movement, they get the votes. And then, but you have to see, once actually they have the position, are they actually doing things that are improving the life of those people, or they're just talking, or they're doing things that eventually do the opposite? And that was the problem with Cuomo. Cuomo did a lot to empower women. Cuomo did a lot of like rules, like one of the accusers of him was working for him because of the laws that he enacted as a governor. And she was working with him because of that. And so he was doing a lot to empower women, a lot of that, a lot of like all other communities too, because obviously like he was like the one who passed legislation for like same-sex marriage. And so he did a lot of things for the community, a lot of things that really improved the life of people, the minimum wage. And he did a lot of very practical things, improving structures, buildings, and a lot of that.
Yeah.
So to me, that's where it was. Like he was actually doing a lot of things for the community and all the communities, because he obviously he has a lot of support in the Black community. He has a lot of support in the Latino community. Like you see, half of the people are either Black in my documentary or they're like Latinos. So he has a lot of like support in those communities. And to me, so then when they attacked him, that's the question that I have. Did they attack him because he was doing something bad, or because what the good things that he was doing, it was something that was against other people's agendas? So getting rid of Cuomo, did it improve the society and communities, or did it make it worse? So that's the question that you have to see. And again, there should be consequences for bad actions, but again, it then needs to be coherent with whatever the accusations are. Like, okay, it's not like I say something, I offend you, now you call my workplace and you tell me I should get fired because of something I told you that offended you. Like, obviously, everything has to be put in perspective. So, and a lot of people don't even know what the accusations are. So it's hard to talk to people because they don't know what he's been accused of. They just assume.
No, I do agree with you too. I feel like politicians or companies shouldn't join a movement just for like to be performative and be like, oh, look, I'm supporting this movement. So something that I've been thinking of, like, let's say, for example, within the recent years, I feel like companies have been more like supportive to like LGBTQ rights and everything, and just like putting more like pride in their merchandise or like, commercials or something. But I feel like with this dismantling that the current administration is doing of like DEI and like, this anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, I've noticed that like companies are pulling back on their support. So it's just like, I feel like they shouldn't just support because they think it's what everyone wants to see. I feel like they should stand up for movements because it's the right thing to do, and stand for that movement even when things get rough, like people above them start giving them pressure to pull back. I think they should, I think it's a responsibility for them to still stand in solidarity with the movements.
Yeah, but that's the problem. It's like when people say they're in solidarity, are they doing for their own benefit because they want to make more money or not? And who should make money from that? Like, to me, I have issues. Like I studied business too, and I've been working like in organization. And so I'm always thinking about how to make profit, how to improve that. But then I'm like, okay, maybe you are like, okay, every Pride you start selling cookies at your coffee shop, but that's not, there is no LGBTQ person in your place. Are you, you're selling those cookies just because you know this month people are going to buy them, and so it's giving you profit, or it's because you want to show support. And that's where I think that's just a stupid example, but I think we need to put things in perspective, where it's like, who is doing that just for profit? Who is doing it for real? And I was having like a conversation with some of my coworkers about like a big company like Target, because they removed their DI statement or whatever it is.
That. That's what made me think.
But in reality, how does that affect anything? Because it's not that then you go to Target, it's not that the day after they removed that statement they fired all the Latinos, all the Black people. Like, it didn't change anything. It was just a statement that was on their website. So to me, I'm like, okay, what are your actions? So like, I don't care what you write in the website if then you don't actually do anything that is real. It's just performative. And I feel like living in Los Angeles, I see a lot of people, they're all on the left, obviously, but it's like, okay, you're writing that statement, you're writing those things, you believe those things, but are you actually doing something to empower people in those communities? Are you actually doing something about it? Or are you just talking just to make yourself look cool in front of other people? And that's where I struggle. I'm a person, I care about action, I don't care about what you say. And so that's where I struggle.
No, I think it's hard. I think especially these big corporations that, like, if they're looked at negatively, they're like, oh, we have to give back to the community because we want to improve our image. So I even worked at this organization where we we're struggling because there's this big company that wanted to give us money, but we're like, I don't know, it just goes against like who we are. And, just that complicated, like, yes, we have to survive, but do we want to take money just because we know this company is giving it to us because they need, you know, more positivity in this certain community. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
it's just
those
rough.
big corporations, like they do
Yeah.
way more than a lot of other organizations do,
Hmm.
honestly. So to me, it's unfair also when like they get so much backlash, because like I mean,
Yeah.
I work with nonprofit art organizations, and they
Uh-huh.
all talk. Okay, everybody should make a good wage. Everybody should be paid fair. Everybody should
Yeah.
be this and that. Okay, are you paying that fair to
Right.
them? No, you are
Yeah.
not. I know I don't have the money. I should not have to do that. But other
Yeah.
people do. Like even now there is the strike for Starbucks, but Starbucks gives so many benefits to its workers.
Okay.
Like like that's where like it's a weird conversation because yeah, a lot of people want to hate Starbucks, but he gives you like I think you have to do only a minimum of 20 hours to get health
Oh,
insurance through
okay.
Starbucks. It's a
Okay.
very low amount, so it's not that you have to make so many hours. And obviously,
Oh,
it's a
that's
type of
good.
job that young people usually do, and that's another
Uh-huh.
conversation. How like certain jobs here are for young people, like compared to other countries, where like it's a job is a
Hmm.
job. It's not just something for young people, but besides that conversation you get so many benefits. I think you get some stocks too, like even regular
Okay.
people. You get benefits, insurance. I think my ex roommate, he was working there and just temporarily, and he
Uh-huh.
also got like he could go to a psychologist paid by
Hmm.
Starbucks. And even Target, they pay for like if you want to study in certain university, they pay for your tuition, like at
Yeah.
Target. So you get so many more benefits working
Yeah.
with this company. If you compare Starbucks, which is just a coffee shop, to other coffee shops,
Yeah.
you get much more out of that than a regular coffee shop. Yes, Starbucks can afford to pay more for like its baristas and everything,
Hmm.
obviously. But if you increase how much you make at the Starbucks as a barista, which is also like less skilled type of job than a real coffee shop too, because
Okay.
like if you're a coffee shop, like okay, you have to do the latte art, you need to know about quality. It's very different than what I'm obsessed with coffee shops, so I can give
Yeah.
you like, we can
No,
talk
that's
about
cool.
that for 10 hours about the difference in Starbucks and coffee shops.
Uh-huh.
But but that's the thing. Like it's a company still that gives you a lot more benefit than the average company. So I
Hmm.
know a lot of companies that they're like all doing and like they're all saying the right things, but then they're not willing to pay like real wages for people not even like entry level. So
Yeah.
that's where I struggle. It's like it's all
Yeah.
performative to me. Like I
No, I agree. No, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I just feel like it's so complex, so messy. And like for me, I just want, like, I feel like I just have enough energy to tackle one issue at a time. But I want to go back to your work. So, what responsibilities do you feel that documentary filmmakers have when amplifying voices that are often erased or overshadowed? I think you did a beautiful job at this, but what do you think, what kind of responsibility do you think that other like filmmakers have in like amplifying these voices? Especially for me, like amplifying marginalized voices is particularly important to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what where I struggle with the movie industry, whether it's
Hmm.
the movies or documentaries. It just feels like to me it's too often about the glamour and too
Yeah.
less about like the real deal. So
Uh-huh.
my documentary is a little unconventional, if you
Hmm.
will, because like how it's structured, you just hear people talking. There is not all the noise that there is in documentaries. Like most
Yeah.
documentaries, maybe you hear someone talking for like 30 seconds, then they cut to something different. It's
Hmm.
very quick bites. And then you have a lot of like sceneries and stuff like that, that like a lot of
Yeah.
B-rolls in regular documentaries. I just like if I watch a documentary, I want to learn something. So
Okay.
that's why when I made this documentary, I was like, I'm gonna cut everything that to me is not
Hmm.
necessarily like cutting between cameras. I had two cameras. I was like, I'm gonna just use one camera because to me
Wow.
that was key. That you see that I'm not manipulating what people are saying, and so you see the footage,
Yeah.
their interview. It's one shot, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's like 2 minutes and a half because that's what people that's how human beings talk. They talk for a long time. And so
Hmm.
I wanted to make sure that you understand by watching a documentary that I'm not manipulating what they're saying. I'm not cutting in between what
Yeah.
they're saying. You're seeing the full evolution. And to me, that was like the key thing about this documentary. I wanted to show you the real, like make it closer to real life than to a movie, and to really hear this perspective. And I feel like too often, like people in the industry, they care so much about not the real people, but maybe like the fancy ones, the famous people. And so like some of not the criticism, but sometimes people were like turned off by my documentary because they were like, oh, I want to hear what famous people have to say. It's like that's exactly what this is not about. It's about hearing real people, real perspective. So it's great when you like a I love like either people love my documentary or they hate it, and it's great to see because some people get it. They get like you're getting the point of the documentary. You're not questioning, oh, why didn't you interview some famous people? It's like that's not the point of the documentary. And so like the other day, a friend of mine, he watched the documentary and he gave me his feedback, and he was talking about he felt like he needed like a protagonist. And I was like, that's, like there shouldn't be any protagonist. Like in the movie, there is a protagonist. This is not about entertaining you. It's not about making you feel like, say, enjoying your night. It's about really hearing different perspective from real people. It's not about the typical movie structure. And so there shouldn't be a protagonist. And he was saying also like he wanted to hear more the voice of the filmmaker. It's like, obviously I have very strong opinions, but this wasn't about me. It wasn't about my opinions necessarily about Cuomo. I'm very much supporting Cuomo. Okay. I'm always on this side, definitely.
No, I could tell.
So that's not going to change ever. But that was not the point of the documentary. It was not about me and my personal opinion. It was really about hearing what people have to say. And very often people that don't have a microphone, people in certain communities. So, and I think you have like a great mix of people. I I didn't plan for it, but it was great how like the mix ended up being like from different communities, different backgrounds. So I think that's what the movie industry needs to focus more on, like on real things and like the message more than actually making the product entertaining.
No, I think that's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that too. And I feel like that's where you and I are very similar in how we approach our work, because I feel like, we want to say that, just people, our stories matter, our voices matter. And the same thing with my podcast. I'm not looking for like these people with like big titles or, this and that. Like it'd be great to have people, with those kind of things. But I want to make sure that I don't lose my vision of also like just showing regular people just doing beautiful things for their communities. So volunteers, teachers, that's when I want to show people like you don't need to be big and famous or have a title or, politician or whatever to like matter. Like, we should just, know that our stories are worth telling, that we're important enough to like have the spotlight on us too. And
I think what I don't like about this country is how people are so obsessed on credentials. Like you need to have, like you have to go to university, or if you didn't go to university to study that topic, your voice doesn't matter. Like, and like in Italy, we're not so obsessed with university. Like now, newer generations like mine, obviously we are going more to university, but also because it's harder to find a job. Maybe like before my generation, a lot of people didn't even go to university because our educational system until like high school, it's great. You learn much more there than you learn in a university here too. Obviously, it's a better system. But that's the thing, like people here are obsessed. It's like, okay, why are you talking about this topic? Like, what's your credential? What university do you have a degree about this? And it's like, first of all, doesn't matter how much you study at Harvard. If you don't know how to learn, there is no Harvard that can give you that knowledge, because like really learning things, it's a skill. You can see people, I meet people that like they have done like big universities and still at like 30, 40 years old, they have a hard time learning new things because they've just been taught when they were young or younger how to learn things. But then because they don't have that skill on themselves, they're not curious, they're not learning all the time. Then they don't learn anymore after they finish school. So a person that actually is curious, maybe you did like a lot of entrepreneurs, they didn't even go to university or they dropped university, like a lot of like very rich people in this country. So that's where I think like people are so obsessed with credential, and that was one of the things that actually some people were telling me, like, oh, I want to know what kind of job each of the people that I interviewed in the
It doesn't
documentary.
matter though. It's not relevant to the story you're telling.
And that's the point, because
Yeah.
that's why I didn't want to write it there, because if I wrote it there, then they would be like, oh, well, this person is just doing this job, why would I listen to this
Yeah.
perspective? I didn't want any of that. I didn't want to have any background. Okay, there is just the name, not even the last name, where you can put things like, so it's about really forcing people to listen to what they're saying and not anything else.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's beautiful. No, I had such a wonderful time talking with you today. And are there any last words that you'd like to leave for my listeners? Like anything that you want people to start thinking about after seeing your work?
I mean, like, to me, the point is not about agreeing with whatever each person saying in the documentary, not even agreeing with me. It's really about asking the questions. So, like,
Yeah.
I just want people to start thinking and questioning things that maybe before they thought, okay, this is what I have to believe. I think like you just need to question every narrative, whether it's whatever the topics are in the documentary or in every situation that comes. So just to question things, and that's where it is. Like, I'm not trying necessarily to change your mind and to tell you what you have to think about Cuomo, what you have to think about other topics. It's about listen to what other people are saying, and then decide whatever you want for yourself, but at least question things.
No, I really love that. And thank you again for taking the time to share your wisdom and insights. I had a really wonderful time talking with you. But just lastly, how can people find you if they'd like to connect with you?
I mean, they could go to the website, which is
Okay.
thisiswhatnewyorkerssay.com. So you can find all the information there. There is a form where like they can reach me out by email if they want to. There is my social media there. So yeah, they can find me pretty much everywhere: social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So yeah,
Okay.
anywhere is good.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again. And I hope to stay connected with you. I think, support each other's work and stuff. But I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you very much. You too. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for being here and tuning in to Voices That Propel Us, stories of justice, action, and community. Your presence in this movement matters. If today's conversation moved you, share it, talk about it, and keep the work going. Together, we're not just imagining change, we're making it. Until next time, stay bold, stay grounded, and stay in the fight.
Every time I feel so mad and sad and bad, I say to myself, relax, lean back, it's a brand new day. And every time I feel so down that a friend